නිදහස් සංවාද වැඩබිම පක්ෂ දේශපාලනයට එපිටි transcends party politics.
In order to enlighten ourselves about the level war crime allegations against General Jagat Jayasuriya in Brazil, we should understand the background of the Sri Lankan war and the following war crime allegations. First of all, let's go to the beginning of the war. When Sri Lankan government decided to withdraw from the ceasefire agreement with the LTTE and declared war against it in September 2006. At the outset of the commencement of the war, Western countries, USA, EU, Australia, Canada, all were fully behind Sri Lanka. They were under the impression that Sri Lanka is going to weaken the LTTE, not to defeat them. Therefore, they shared intelligence. LTTE was banned in all those countries, EU, USA, Canada, Australia, Malaysia, India, everywhere. Then they arrested LTTE activists, LTTE fundraisers, and they tried their best to curtail LTTE activities in their respective countries in support of the war against terrorism. But everything changed on 2nd of January 2009, the day we captured pseudo capital of the LTTE Tamil Eelam, Kilnochi. Then they realized Sri Lankan government is now going to defeat the LTTE. The victory is definite. It was a matter of time. They had a big problem at that time. 39 powerful countries led by the USA waging a war against Taliban in Afghanistan since November 2001. They failed to show any significant achievement against Taliban for 8 long years. When they were struggling with all these resources and expertise against such a minor terrorist group compared to the LTTE, poor, small nation is going to defeat the most powerful and most brutal terrorist organization in the world. So they got embarrassed. See, they began to push Sri Lankan government for a ceasefire. We could well remember from January onwards, Hillary Clinton, State Secretary in USA, Bernard Kouchner, Foreign Minister of France, Miliband, Foreign Secretary of UK, then David Brown, Prime Minister of the UK, to the Ban Ki-moon, General Secretary of the United Nations, forced Sri Lanka to declare a ceasefire. Despite this international pressure, Sri Lankan government determined to finish the war. They achieved it on 19th May 2009. Now the West is in trouble. Sri Lanka has done something what they failed to. Therefore, they wanted to undermine Sri Lankan military and devalue the military victory achieved by Sri Lanka. That's why they brought war crime allegations in May 2009 itself at the Human Rights Commission of the United Nations. Although the West has been leveling allegations about war crimes to Sri Lankan military for the last 8 years, they have so far failed to scientifically, legally establish these. We demanded the West to come out with the evidence. They have in Darusman report, this is very important to Brazil case, because one of the members of the Darusman commission, namely Jasmine Suka, is the head of the NGO which has filed legal action against General Jagat Jayasuriya in Brazil and other countries, International Justice and Truth Project. Of course, these allegations, this legal action based on Darusman report. So this Darusman report is very important in that case. Darusman report claimed at least 40,000 civilian casualties were in one knee during the last phase of the war. We demanded the Darusman and the Western superpowers to come out with evidence. They must at least produce a list of 40,000 people who have been killed by this Sri Lankan military. If they fail to prepare the list, if there is a list, we can verify the sources, verify the incidents, then we can bring people to the justice. Because Sri Lanka has a good track record of punishing military for any committed war crimes. We can well remember Sri Lankan military defeated the JVP insurrection in 1971. But a lady called Premawati Manamperi, murdered and raped and murdered by military was the culprit of this murder and rape were brought to the law by the Sri Lankan government itself without any pressure. Similarly, that was not limited in the south. Similarly, in the north, in 1998, a group of military raped and killed a girl called Krishanti Krishnaswamy. Sri Lankan government brought the culprit before the law and punished them. So we have a Surya Kanda episode. Hokandar mass grave. During the 1987 to 88, military was alleged that they have killed youth and hide their bodies in mass graves. Government dig those, brought the culprits to law. So we have a well-established track records for taking action against war crimes. Therefore, we don't need any international pressure to do that. Secondly, in this case, in order to punish our military, we need evidence. We have demanded so far. Then we suggested, okay, if you don't have a list of 40,000 people, then at least show your satellite photographic images where there are piles of dead bodies. If there are 40,000 people were killed during a short span, there must be piles of dead bodies all over. Produce those photographs. Then we will identify the locations, talk to the military, and we can trace the people responsible. But so far, they have failed to find anything. Their solitary source is undisclosed statements given by undisclosed victims and witnesses. Actually, filing legal action against, especially criminal legal action against certain accused without affording them an opportunity to cross-examine the witnesses is against the basic principle of criminal law. Therefore, the action filed in Brazil is against the basic equity principles available in criminal law. On the other hand, we had some safeguards. Sri Lanka until 2015 had not the party to Convention for Prevention of Enforced Disappearances. But unfortunately, Sri Lankan government has now signed and ratified it. Therefore, any country can demand our military personnel to try them in their countries. But fortunately, so far, Sri Lanka has not implemented the law by way of passing an act in the parliament. Therefore, Brazil can demand, but we can refuse because we don't have a local judicial system engine to accommodate that kind of a demand so far. We are hopeful that Sri Lankan government would not enact that act in the near future, facilitating this kind of a betrayal. What we demand from all these NGOs as well as the Tamil activists, come out with evidence. Since Sri Lanka has a strong track record of punishing war criminals throughout the history, whether it is in the south or the mid of Sri Lanka or the north. We have a clear track record since 1971 punishing war criminals. Therefore, come out with evidence, then you don't have to waste your time filing action here and there all over the world. In Sri Lanka itself, we can apply the law to any culprit if there is any, but we are strongly of the view that these allegations are leveled against Sri Lanka military to tarnish its image, undermine its military victory, because we have done exclusive military victory in the world which has not been able to achieve so far by any military superpower in the world.
නිදහස් සංවාද වැඩබිම පක්ෂ දේශපාලනයට එපිටි transcends party politics.